Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to episode 4 of the Swords and Candy podcast. This your host, Big Slam. We back at it again with another recap of the preseason. Game 2 of the preseason. Bucs versus the Titans. Unfortunately, we lose 13-3. But a lot of good takeaways from this game. I was personally able to go to the game since I am living in Memphis. Nashville is about 2.5, maybe 3 hours away. Was definitely had the opportunity to go to the game and sit out and kind of watch things and kind of see things first person, man. Give a lot of the stuff the eye test, and the eye test is important when you talk about really getting to see the players up close and seeing how they really perform on the field, not looking at highlights or trusting other sources of media to kind of let you know what's going on and trusting their eye test, but to actually have your own eye test and look at these players, man, and see how they performing and just basically how the team look on the field, man, from the reserves to the starters and just what's to come and who's doing good and who's not doing good. So let's jump right into it. So once again, the score was 13-3. It was a pretty kind of slow game. It really wasn't a lot going on in that game, not high scoring at all. But it was definitely a lot to learn from that game and just basically what we did and how we could have got better. Different opportunities. This is a very stagnant game. Offense didn't really do a lot. Offense was very slow. Far as the box score or whatnot, man, let's see. Blaine Gabbert was still steady 80, man. He was 3 for 5. He didn't play that much. He had 13 yards, no touchdowns. Kyle Trask took most of the snaps in the Tennessee Titan game. He was 11 to 24, just 105 yards. He took four sacks, threw a pick. Passer rating was 41, so he didn't really do good, man. But there's a lot of different takeaways to take from it. As far as Kyle Trask, I definitely think he went down. He kind of regressed as far as what he did against the game against Miami. A lot of talk was about Kyle Trask and how he was looking is virtually a lot of his success is going to be how he plays in preseason because he won't get a chance to play during the regular season. So for a guy that we spent the second round draft pick on, we really want to see what we have in him and if he's something we can keep around. If he's somebody we can keep around. After the Brady era, and if Blaine Gabbert, goes down, can he be their number 2 quarterback behind Blaine Gabbert once Brady leaves? Just basically seeing what kind of return and investment we're going to get out of him. Like I said, I think he regressed in this game. He didn't really look too good. The offense as a whole didn't look good at all, man. It just wasn't a good game for us. But no, that's nothing against the Tennessee Titans defense. I think they played well. But I just think as far as offensively, we were just really slow to kind of just get up and down the field. Just looked like we just sputtered a lot of times, man, just really trying to figure it out, what we wanted to do. So let's go right into it as far as the breakdowns. Like I say, as far as Kyle Trask, he didn't really do too much, but another good highlight I saw was Keyshawn Vaughn. He had 10 carries for 54 yards. He got 3 first downs out of it, averaging 3.2 yards per carry. So, and he did really good. He forced 4 missed tackles. So, he did really good for a guy that's really on the bubble as well. When you talk about that running back room with Leonard Fournette, Gio Bernard, and you having Keyshawn Vaughn in that mix as well as alongside the rookie Rashad White. Keyshawn Vaughn really has to prove that he's really one of those guys to step on in and be part of the starting lineup or be one of those guys that might be up for a trade when you have a guy like Rashad White that's really coming around and he's looking like, well, I call him a new Le'Veon Bell. A guy that's kind of he run upward, he can catch, he can run, he can block, he can really do it all, and it's kind of what we wanted out of Keyshawn Vaughn, like that combo running back. But Keyshawn Vaughn's a little more smaller than Rashad White. Rashad White is a little more bigger. He can do a little more with the football, but it's nothing against Keyshawn Vaughn. We just really have to just see what can he do. I think the times when he did get in the game, he didn't look good as far as his rookie season or last year. He had some inopportune fumbles. He didn't really just make a lot of good use of his time when he did see the field, which is frustrating when you have a guy like Tom Brady. It really depends on his running back to pick up those blitzes and really do something with those checkdowns. I think Keyshawn Vaughn didn't really do too good with the time he had when he was able to get in real games. So seeing him doing really good in preseason, 10 carry, 54 yards, really just kind of lift a lot of weight off him to feel like, hey, I know I can come out here and play the game. They have a rookie behind me, so they drafted him for a reason. So I think Rashad White's going to do a lot of things as well. He did really, really good. He's been doing good this preseason. As far as Rashad White, a guy that, when he gets in, he does what he can do. He does what he can do. As far as, catching out the backfield, even with this game, he had 1 reception for 16 yards. That's really good for a running back catching out the backfield. He had 6 carries for 19 yards running at the backfield. So, like I say, just a good combo guy that he can do both that I'm really looking forward to. So, it's really Keyshawn Vaughn's job to lose to him. Rashad White isn't going anywhere. He's a rookie, but we're not putting him on the practice squad. So, when you got a guy like Gio Bernard and Keyshawn Vaughn, it's really their battle to who's going to be their number 2 running back. Because we know what Gio Bernard can do. He's a third down running back. He's a good, catching the ball at the backfield type of guy. But he really can't pass block. He's really too light to pass block when we need him. But I think Keyshawn Vaughn can pass block a little bit better than Gio Bernard. So I think those two are really in competition on who's going to be their second running back. We're not going to risk anything with Rashad White. We definitely not put him on a practice squad. So and risk having him getting signed away from another team. So I think it's really going to come down to which one of those two guys can really just take the cake and really, be one of those guys we're going to keep, or we get traded. I don't think we couldn't anybody, but, maybe Keyshawn Vaughn be up for a trade if one of them teams need a good running back to come in and be kind of a depth player. But Rashad White is looking upward. Going into the receivers, of course, you got the new guys, undrafted free agents, and Devin Tompkins and Stearns looking really good as always. Tompkins, he was the highest graded pass catcher. He caught 2 targets for 38 yards, 2 first downs. He went 1 for 1 in contested scenarios, and he had one explosive play, which is those plays really 15 yards or more. I think Thompson's really coming on the scene as a guy that's hungry. He really want to kind of get a spot on his team as far as in the wide receiver room. And like I say, they definitely just bring more questions and conversation to the wide receiver room on, who's going to be the odd man out. I think in my last episode I spoke on a little bit with Jaylen Darden, which, like I say, I was there in person and you get to see the eye test, and Jaylen Darden really didn't do well, man. He had 3 targets, no catches. Like he just like Julio said, like he playing too fast or whatever the case is. But it's a lot of competition in that room, man. And what you can say, like you got undrafted free agents coming in and outballing you. And, you was already a low-round draft pick in the first place. It's not going to be a lot of incentive to keep you around if you letting guys just coming in, undrafted rookie free agents coming in and outshining you every time they get a chance to get on the field. Like I say, Jaylen Darden, he's more flash than anything, but you have to turn those opportunities and those reps into stats. And when you getting 3 targets and you don't do anything with them, and like I say, me being there and seeing the eye test of them, it just look like he's looking very small out there, like he's getting frustrated. He's not making the most of his opportunities. You're not already doing good as a return man, but when you try to put him in situations at receiver and you're not doing good, it really just don't leave a lot of room for you to stay around and really make your case when you have a guy like Stearns and Tompkins that's really shining and doing good, and Geiger as well. Those guys are making a use out of their targets and the reps. And when you have a guy like Jaylen Darden just really not doing anything. So this is like the second game in a row the second preseason that he hasn't did much with the ball. Like last game against Miami, he had the touchdown, but that was his only catch. But we're looking for Jaylen Darden to be more utilized as a guy that we can get the ball to really quick and get some yak. Not a guy that's going to play downhill and play downfield like a Chris Godwin or like a Tyler Johnson, guys that's really catching those long balls. And speaking of Tyler Johnson, once again, he had a solid game with 2 receptions, 24 yards, 2 targets. So he was perfect for whatever he got thrown his way. Scotty Miller had 3 targets, 1 catch for 15 yards. That's kind of like what Scotty does, big play kind of guy. He's not going to catch a lot and catch something short and take it down the field. But Kyle Rudolph, tight end we brought in the absence of Gronk, he did really good. Run reception for 3 yards, but he's a starter, so we're not going to do much with him. Lenny Fournette, 2 catches for 6 yards. Being who he is, the starters really didn't play that much. I think Lenny only had 5 carries, so he got 5 carries and he was out there maybe like a first quarter type of thing. But just against the Titans, like I say, with my eye test, Rashad White looked good. Keyshawn Vaughn looked good. Kyle Trask really didn't look good at all. It looked like he was kind of rattled. When they bring the pressure on him, he didn't really make good decisions with the ball. But then again, offensive line didn't do him any justice, and receivers had a lot of drops as well. And Jaylen Darden is one of the ones that kind of made it hard for Kyle Trask to kind of have some production out of their game. On the defensive side, I like what he was doing. Let's see. As far as the defensive line, Preseason made most of his 15 pass rush snaps last night. Got 2 hits, 2 hurts, and 1/3 of his pass rate win. So it's a guy that's really trying to be on the bubble and make the team. Linebackers, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. Fudukasi, he had five solo tackles, 2 defensive stops against the run, 2 sacks as a blitz, and just one catch for a negative 1 yard. In the secondary, Jamel Dean and SMB played 10 snaps apiece. They both gave up a catch, which was 25 yards in total. That's going to happen. But like I say, it was just really easing those starters back into the swing of things. We really weren't expecting much out of them. Offensive line is definitely a situation where we had to address because they did really good as much as they could. They did have 4 sacks that night, but they only gave up 9 pressures from 33 snaps. So that's really good when you think about the whole scope of things. But unfortunately, Aaron Stenny, he ended up going down with a torn MCL and ACL, which is bad because we already having depth issues on the offensive line. With Jensen basically being out for the season, we lose a starter. Far as the center, he's been out for the season. Now we lose a good depth player, and Lil Stenny, he's out for the season as well. But a lot of people talk about the offensive line and whatnot, and I really don't worry because we still have our bookends. We still have Donovan Smith. We still have Tristan Wirth. And we still have Shaq Mason. I think a lot of people forget that we signed over from the Patriots, which is really good. He's going to be a really good guard on the right side. Now, the left guard is kind of up. We don't know if I drafted guy, I forgot his name, Luke Kadeshia. We don't know if he's going to take that spot. It's looking like he will because, like I say, Stenny is out now. But I think when you think about it, and Haynes is going to take over his center, but I think when you think about it, it's really a treat to have a guy like Tom Brady because he's not going to allow that to be a deficit for him on how he moves the ball. Like, 3 seconds or less, he's getting that ball out. So when people, it sucks that we got those injuries and those hits to the offensive line, but I think all it does is just heighten Tom Brady timing and awareness to be like, okay, I know I got to get this ball out. We know how defense is going to attack us going into the season. A lot of those defenses are going to really attack the interior of their line, and rightfully so. That's our weak spot. But at the end of the day, I think Tom Brady's going to definitely get with Byron Leftwich and design plays or have different hot routes and audibles and different outs based on what he see to kind of get that ball out quick if they are coming up the middle. And try to bring a lot of pressure on them new guys and really take advantage of Jensen being hurt and not having a guy like Stenny that's been with the team for a while that can come in off the bench and be a rotational guy. We virtually got to really just rebuild the whole interior of the line. Just even with Shaq Mason, he's already establishing a good player, but he still has to learn the ins and outs of being on that line. And it sucks that we don't got Marpet back that can really help him kind of, speed up that learning process of learning, different audibles, different checks, just basically knowing how to play with Brady. I think Shaq Mason, he knows that from playing with Brady back in New England, but it's a different team, different playbook, different type of terminology. So I don't think he'll have a hard time picking it up and kind of being a plug-and-play guy, but at the end of the day, it does hurt when you don't have a guy like Jensen next to him that can definitely help him out when things do get a little cloudy and foggy for him. Hopefully Hainsey in his second year, he can kind of pick up with Jensen left off. We know he's not Ryan Jensen, but he can be serviceable. Like I say, when you have a guy like Tom Brady, he can kind of coach every position on the offense on what to do, what to look for, what's coming, what's to come. I think Brady can do really good just kind of willing that offensive line in serviceable shape for him. And just knowing that, okay, well, I don't have a lot of time to get this ball out there coming up the middle. Let me make sure I have different hot routes and audibles in place and knowing and be on one page with receivers and tight ends and running backs that, hey, this ball going to come out. It's going to come out quick to you. So I think when you talk about the whole scope of the offensive line, I think we'll be okay. We definitely don't need any more injuries. I think we go into this next preseason game really, just taking it slow, not trying to do anything to really add to those injuries, especially during practice as well. We really just have to make sure we don't limp into the season as far as the offensive line because it's only going to get worse if we have two guys out for the season. And you have, with Donovan Smith being, up and down as he is. We don't have to worry about Tristan Wirth, but Tristan Wirth just had an injury. So it's not serious. He'll be back for the start of the season. But when you have a guy like Donovan Smith that's up and down and he loses his battles at times, the last thing you want to do is have any more weaknesses in that offensive line for Tom Brady, which he won't move around as much. He's calling himself a scrambler quarterback. He can get out and move around when you have to, but he's not mobile. You don't want pressure coming right up the middle, and you forcing that running back. You forcing Fournette to really pick up more blitzes than he should, when he can be kind of a block and release type of guy to get the ball out, which I think he's going to use him a lot as a block and release. Just stop that guy, chip this guy, and be looking for the ball because Brady has to get the ball out fast. And it will kind of hurt a lot of our downfield plays because he needs that time. But Brady's a masterful guy. Like, you can blitz him all day long, but if you don't get home, they force you to lay out their blitz. And when you lay off their blitz, now he has the time to make those plays you want to make across the field, those immediate throws, those deep throws. So I think Tom Brady's going to come back. He's years back. It's not one of those situations where, some of the chatter was going around like he was frustrated. He had to just be away from the team. No, he was just doing some family things. So I think Tom Brady comes back and he kind of analyze and assess the current offensive line and what he needs to do to kind of make sure he keeps himself safe and kind of keep this offense still rolling. So all in all, with the Titan game, like I say, with the eye test, one of the things that stood out to me the most was just the lack of production from Jaylen Darden. And I'm looking at it as like he's going to be one of them guys that's not going to make the roster. I don't know if he's practice squad eligible, but when you have a guy like Stearns and Thompson that's coming on up and a guy like Geiger that's coming on up, it's kind of a disservice to let them guys go when they've shown you all training camp and our preseason what they can do when you have a guy like Jaylen Darden that's really still trying to figure out what his role is in the offense, even on special teams. We try to use him as a return man. He wasn't good. Now we're trying to see what we can use him on offense. But when you got guys like Stern and Tompkins and, you have to make those decisions on keeping one of those two of those guys, maybe both, but then you have a guy like Jaylen Darden that's really on the bubble. He might be the odd man out. I don't think we'll give up Scotty Miller. A lot of people are talking about, well, Scotty Miller might be on the bubble too. I don't think so because I think Scotty Miller showed that he can be successful in his offense. He has that continuity with Brady. He's really the only person on the team who can do what he does as far as those deep shots down the field. Scotty Miller is a burner. He can run. I don't know who faster between Scotty Miller and Darden. I think Scotty Miller is faster. I think Darden is quicker. I don't think Darden has that top end speed to really get downfield and do something with the ball. I think Scotty Miller is really more of a downfield threat, a deep threat than Jaylen Darden. And I think that's how Darden get cut or be the odd man out. I don't think we're getting rid of Scotty Miller. I think Scotty Miller is proven. He's one of those guys that's going to get better. Last year he was just hurt. He was dealing with a lot of injuries. But I think he's get back to that 2020 form when we made the Super Bowl run, catching a lot of those deep passes. Just being that guy that can really take the top off the defense, and that eases things up for a guy like Chris Godwin whenever he come back. And we're not going to even include Chris Godwin, but a guy like Russell Gage and a guy like Julio and a guy like Mike Evans. When you have those three guys on the field and you have a guy like Scotty Miller can get downfield in 3 seconds or less to really just make those safeties clear out, you got all this stuff behind the linebackers open. And one-on-one, nobody's stopping Julio. One-on-one, nobody's stopping Mike. One-on-one, I think Russell Gage in that slot position is going to do wonders for us because that's how he was in Atlanta. He made a lot of good catches. Had a lot of production in Atlanta out of that slot position, being that number 2 guy, number 3 guy. Number 2 after Julio left, but being that number 3 guy when they had Julio and Calvin Ridley, he really just carved out a nice role for himself, just being that guy. He can catch a lot of the slot passes. So I think bringing him in to kind of give Godwin that extra time to rest is very monumental for us. It's a good move for us. But like I say, when you have a guy like Tyler Johnson that can come in behind him and be a rotational player in that 3rd, 4th spot, it really leaves Scotty Miller in a good place as far as being on that bubble, as far as getting cut or not. Because at the end of the day, we know what Scotty Miller can do. We don't know what Jaylen Darden can do, and the eye test don't lie. So 13-3, like I say, it was really more of a defensive game than anything. We did get an interception out of the game, but it was really just the offense. The offense really didn't produce like we want. We only got 3 points out of the game. So I think it's something that Todd Bowles going to have to sit back and reevaluate with the offensive staff on what went wrong, what could have went right. But I think a lot of it really just fell in the hands of Cal Trask being not productive. Offensive line wasn't really blocking as they should, and the receiver was making a little more drops than they should. So I'm looking forward to Game 3. It's definitely a lot to look at and analyze. But Game 3 is coming up. That'll be the last game of the preseason. I do think Tom Brady plays in that game to kind of just get his feet wet and kind of get back into the swing of things before the first game against the Cowboys. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. So let's see how it goes. Guys, make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll be back with more content from the Swords of Candy podcast. Stay tuned. Peace.